Hello, in this video we will look at the absorption of vitamin B12 and we will also understand the physiological aspect and their deficiency. So here is the different product: cheese, wheat, bread, fish and meat and liver of beef and lamb, as well as the beef meat which that contain vitamin B12. It is also known as the cobalamin. So this is basically during the protein, carbs, fat, during the digestion time, the absorption of the vitamin B will be occur also. So let's begin to understand with the whole detail about the absorption of the vitamin B12 and their function and their mood of action in the bloodstream, as well as we will discuss just and all this we will discuss overview of the vitamin B12 absorption. So here is the stomach which that contain esophagus as well as the duodenum, and here is the pancreas which that is produce the amylase and protease enzyme. So the salivary glands in our body, for example, in the oral cavity contain a salivary gland which produce the haptocorrin. This haptocorrin is the vitamin B binder, and it during the oral cavity, during the first phase of the digestion of the semi-digestion of the starch, carbohydrate and protein, basically is the carbs, which that is the haptocorrin is the binder uh, of the vitamin B12. So after the binding with the haptocorrin, which that is moved into the esophagus to the stomach, so it is collectively here, and that means it will be digested, or it will be bind with the intrinsic factor. And here is the stomach contain a parietal cell and chief cell. This parietal cell is produced the hydrochloric acid, while the pepsinogen is produced uh, from the parietal cell, but the chief cell produce the hydrochloric acid. So remember about that. Chief cell produce the hydrochloric acid. So here is basically one important thing is that the blue color shows that the vitamin B, while the red color shows that the intrinsic factor, which that is the vitamin B12 and intrinsic factor complex formation will be occur. So here is the stomach wall which contain a parietal cell and chief cell, as well as the endocrine cells, enteroendocrine cells, but we are not understanding here. So just we will just understand the basically parietal cell which that is produce the hydrochloric acid, as well as one more important thing, it is produce the intrinsic factor. This intrinsic factor will be bind with the vitamin B12. So after the binding with the vitamin B12 during the digestion, after the complete digestion of the protein, primary digestion, so the releasing of the vitamin B12. After the vitamin B12 will be released, will bind with the intrinsic factor, which that is released from the parietal cell. So the pancreas when produce the amylase and protease, which during the duodenum will dissociate the vitamin B complex from the intrinsic factor. So after the releasing of the intrinsic factor will again bind with the due to the pancreas activity to produce the exocrine hormone, amylase and protease. This will lead to bind with the basically bind with the vitamin B12. So here you can see in this diagram to understand during the ilium, which that is the absorption time. So ilium, when the food will go into the ilium, so the collectively the vitamin B12 is also go with the duodenum. So here is the ilium, and here is the vitamin B12 intrinsic factor will be bind again in the form of complex formation. So it means the intrinsic factor receptor are present, in the surface of the ilium cell. It is known as the enterocytes or brush border cell. This contains an intrinsic factor receptor IFR, and after this binding to absorb into the blood plasma. So it means the increase of the vitamin B12. After the it is go into the portal vein first, so it means it is the portal vein. So important thing is that the 190 to 950 picogram per ml is the normal range, while the 200 to 300 picogram per ml is considered borderline. Your doctor may do more testing, so that is why. So important thing is that when go into the plasma, so it means it is two type of the vitamin B in the form of transcobalamin 2 and transcobalamin 1. This transcobalamin 2 is basically is the vitamin B12 in the blood, while here is you can see that here is the transcobalamin 2, which that is in the form of 2 transcobalamin, which that is 20%, while the transcobalamin 80% is in the form of 1. So that is 80% is more as compared to the 20%, which that is in the form of 2. So when portal vein will be accept this vitamin B12, this will be importance is the DNA and RNA synthesis and red blood cell production and lipid synthesis. On the other hand, also it is used for the lungs and muscle health, as well as the decrease of the homocysteine level. So it means DNA and RNA synthesis, red blood cell production, and lipid synthesis, as well as the muscle strength and create the healthy nerve cells. It means the nervous system is nourished by the vitamin B12 for normal function. If we will discuss about the deficiency, the anemia, fatigue, numbness, and tingling, slow healing of the wound, and slow healing of the wound and nerve damage due to the less amount of vitamin B12, and the nervous system will be disturbed, and a short breath, muscle weakness, increase homocysteine level due to increase of the reaction, and the vitamin B deficiency. It means the vitamin B is the homeostatic for the homocysteine level in the blood. So let's begin to understand what happens when the parietal cell will be attacked by the immune cell autoimmune disorder. Basically, it will lead to deficiency of the vitamin B. Number one important thing is that vitamin B deficiency through diet, while on the other hand, if not in the case of diet, so the here is you can see the parietal cell inside, and here is the dendritic cell in stomach, which that is apoptotic parietal cell. It will be apoptosis will be occur. So the parietal cell here is the gastric mucosa basically, and here is the hydrogen potassium ATPase pump, which that is enzyme ATPase bind with the dendritic cell. So it is used for the hydrogen and potassium exchange to release hydrochloric acid. So that means it will be bind with the dendritic cell to recognize this was the antigen, and after the recognition, this naive CD4 cell, naive CD4 T cell in lymph node will activate it, and after the activation to produce antibodies, we will discuss by the different mechanism due to the B lymphocyte. So important thing is that, and here the dendritic cell after the recognition of the ATPase pump enzyme. So this enzyme will be against this enzyme will be cause the damage of the parietal cell. So here is the lymph node which contain a naive CD4 T cell. This is the node, and it is the lymph node. And after the activation of the naive T cell, which convert into the mature CD4 T cell, which that is the hydrogen potassium ATPase reactive, and it is will be reactive and attack the parietal cell. How this mechanism will be allow to produce the auto antibodies. So auto means that itself produce the antibody which that is damage our own body cells. So autoimmune disorder which that is lead to deficiency of the vitamin B12. So in this case we can use the supplementary vitamin B supplementary through a injection which that is the cobalamin injection. So here is the auto antibodies which that is produced and attack the parietal cell, and it means the deficiency of the vitamin B12. Why? Because intrinsic factor will not produce also. So on the other hand, the intrinsic factor receptor can also be serve as a autoimmune disorder for the collapsing as well as the decreasing their affinity for the absorption of the vitamin B12. So that is the absorption of vitamin B12 which that is give the health of the muscle, brain, DNA synthesis, mitosis, RNA synthesis and protein production and the lipid synthesis, as well as the lead to increase the healthy nerve cell. Why? Because the lipid synthesis, so the our nervous system is made up of mostly lipid. So that is why. So thanks for watching. Please make sure to subscribe, like and share, ask the question for answer and comment about the artwork in this about this video. So thanks, bye.